The battle between offensive and defensive play callers in the NFL has been labeled a cat and mouse game, and for good reason. Defensive coaches spent the better part of a decade chasing the explosive passing attacks of the late 2010s by deploying Fangio-style too-high safety, light personnel defenses. And the chase prompted offensive play callers to run in the other direction, away from receivers and toward tight ends, to counter light boxes with the run. Use of the cat and mouse idiom tends to imply that defenses are doing the chasing. Offenses set the trends, and defenses try to catch up. These days, that's usually the case. In fact, it's happening right now. The widespread use of heavy personnel packages on offense is forcing defenses into formations and packages that are strong against the run, but weak against the pass. Then the offense exploits those heavy personnel looks with deep shots down the field off of play action. But Seahawks head coach and defensive play caller Mike Macdonald does not submit to the trend. When offenses come out with 2 or fewer receivers on the field, most defenses are going to deploy a base personnel package, meaning the package includes 4 defensive backs. So offensive packages like 12 personnel, meaning 1 running back and 2 tight ends, are usually going to be met with base defense. But the Seahawks are one of very few teams who don't match offensive personnel. They stay in nickel, meaning 5 defensive backs, almost all the time, whether or not the offense goes heavy. Through Week 14, Seattle has a nickel defense rate of 79%, which is the highest in the league. Not only that, but they don't stack the box. They come out in too-high safety shells on 76% of their defensive snaps, also first in the league. And their usage of too-high shells barely even drops when offenses go heavy. They're deploying too-high shells on 73% of snaps against personnel groups that include 2 or fewer receivers. They stay light up front no matter what, and that causes offenses to get heavy on early downs to try to run the ball, which is exactly what Mike Macdonald wants them to do. On early downs in the first quarter, when the clock isn't a factor and a lot of offensive plays are scripted, teams are running the ball against Seattle at an above league average rate of 52%, despite the fact that Seattle is the best team in the NFL against the run. That's right, Seattle is always in light boxes with light personnel on the field, and they're first in run defense by the numbers. So far this season, Seattle is allowing an average of 3.8 yards per run play and negative 0.19 EPA per run play, which is the lowest in the league by a wide margin. Usually the creativity of defensive play callers shows up in passing situations, but Mike Macdonald's defense displays his creativity against the run as much as it does against the pass. Most defensive play callers who like to sit in too high shells take the Vic Fangio approach of coaching their defensive linemen to play a gap and a half. I'll use this play from last week's game between Fangio's Eagles defense and the Bears offense to show you what this approach looks like in action. Pre-snap, Chicago's formation has 8 gaps, but because Philadelphia is in a too-high safety shell, they only have 7 defenders to plug those 8 gaps. They're out-gapped up front, so the 3 down defensive linemen are not only asked to occupy their primary gap in the run fit, but also to fall back into a secondary gap. This is a tough ask for defensive linemen in the modern passing league, where 2-gapping nose tackles are much rarer than they used to be. The pass rush is the priority, so most defensive linemen aren't built to read and react as an old-fashioned 2-gapping nose tackle would be. When DeAndre Swift crosses the line of scrimmage here, you can see Jordan Davis force him to cut back by occupying the frontside A-gap. But Davis fails to fall back into the backside A-gap in time to reach Swift. At the same time, Byron Young, who's originally occupying that backside A-gap, falls back into the backside B-gap too early, and the run goes for 9 yards. The gap and a half philosophy makes these Fangio-style defenses vulnerable against the run. So although he deploys light boxes at the same rate as Vic Fangio, Mike Macdonald doesn't usually ask his defensive linemen to play a gap and a half. Instead, he encourages them to aggressively pursue 1 gap, but makes his run fits unpredictable and chaotic with slanted rushes and run blitzes. On this play from last week against Minnesota, the Vikings and the Seahawks both have 7 players in the tackle box, so the Seahawks are out-gapped up front. Macdonald's run fit calls for Leonard Williams to slant inside from his B-gap alignment, while the nose loops over Williams and the edge slants into the empty left side B-gap. Look at the chaos that these slanted rushes create. Both Leonard Williams and Uchenna Nwosu slash into the backfield at the snap. Nwosu's slant forces a quick cut, and Leonard Williams is there to make the tackle at the line of scrimmage. Also, notice Okada coming from depth as the run develops. Nwosu's slant opened up the playside C-gap, but Okada was there to fill it in case the running back got to the second level. So often, McDaniel's second and third level defenders are functionally blitzing on early downs to support these slanted rushes. Against the run, these slanted rush paths always have support from linebackers and defensive backs behind them, so even when the run design flows in the opposite direction of the slants, Seattle has bodies behind them to fill the empty gaps. Because the Seahawks stay in nickel regardless of offensive personnel, their defensive backs are critically involved in the way they defend the run. The way that these defensive backs shoot out of a cannon against the run would lead you to believe that they're vulnerable to play action, but that is not the case. Here, Seattle's defensive line is slanting toward the weak side, so the support is coming from the strong side. Nick Emmanwori is blitzing, and Ty Okada comes down in run support at the snap. That way, the linebackers can be more conservative in run pursuit. Notice that they barely bite on the run action at the snap. And because Emmanwori is blitzing, the call tells Uchenna Nwosu to drop into coverage on the opposite side. He's there to force the cutback in the run fit if the offense does run his way. But when Jayden Daniels keeps the ball, Nwosu picks up the running back's wheel route. Before anybody can get open, pressure gets home and Daniels has to throw it away. Not only is Seattle at the top of the league in defending the run, they're also among the best against play action. When offenses have called play action against Seattle this season, they've averaged just 5 yards per play, negative 0.23 EPA per play, and have posted a success rate of just 42.5%. Their success in defending the run and the pass on early downs forces teams into must-pass situations. And Mike Macdonald's handling of this element of his defense is what makes him the coach of the year. Early on this season, Seattle was good but not great against the pass. Before their Week 8 bye, the Seahawks allowed 5.7 yards and negative 0.02 EPA per pass play. This defense is very well-rounded top to bottom and full of great football players, but if Seattle does have a liability, it's their wide corners, especially Josh Jobe. And Macdonald's tendency to rush 4 and sit in soft zone and match coverages early on this season allowed offenses to target Jobe and Tariq Woolen deep downfield. In Week 5 against the Bucks, for example, Jobe got beat deep by Emeka Egbuka in 2 separate high-leverage situations. Here, the Bucks faced 3rd and 15 down 1 in the third quarter, and Seattle called press quarters, which means Jobe is responsible for Egbuka on anything vertical. Post-snap, Egbuka wins inside and scores a 20-yard touchdown on 3rd and long. Later in the third quarter, with the score tied at 21, Tampa faced 3rd and 13. Seattle called quarter half, and against a trips look like this, the weak side safety is coached to open his hips toward the strong side of the formation, which means Jobe is again one-on-one with Egbuka out wide. Post-snap, Egbuka leaves Jobe in the dust with a beautiful corner post to set up 1st and goal. In those first 7 games, Seattle's pass rush generated pressure at an above-average rate, but this team's lack of a true winner on the edge showed up in passing situations. The wide corners were getting beat, and they didn't get much help from the pass rush because Macdonald rarely blitzed. On your screen now is Macdonald's blitz rate by game this season. Before their Week 8 bye, Seattle posted a blitz rate of over 20% in just 2 of 7 games. Since the bye week, they haven't posted a blitz rate below 20%. They blitzed on just 20% of third downs before the bye, but since the bye, they're blitzing on nearly 40% of third downs. And Macdonald's ability to generate free runners without sending more than 5 takes the pressure off of his wide corners to hold up in coverage downfield. Here, for example, on Sunday against Atlanta, the Falcons face 3rd and 7, which makes this a passing down. And Macdonald breaks out a wicked blitz. On the back end, Tariq Woolen is manned up on the number 1 up top, and the safeties roll to close the middle of the field. But I really want to focus on the rush paths of the blitzers. Seattle sends 5 at the quarterback, and each rusher has a specific assignment. The weak side edge is the only blitzer with a traditional rush path. Ernest Jones will slant his rush inside to occupy the center. Nick Emmanwori will loop around both Jones and Leonard Williams to occupy the right guard, and Demarcus Lawrence will occupy the right tackle, as Devon Witherspoon rushes from the 2nd level. Notice the delay to Lawrence's rush post-snap. This is intentional, and it's important because it gives Emmanwori enough time to loop around the right guard, which keeps Witherspoon free. The other key detail here is the post-snap movement of the defensive tackles. Both Jarran Reed and Leonard Williams are dropping into coverage over the middle, but before they drop, they simulate the rush to occupy the man opposite them. That adds more traffic for the offensive line to interpret. All of those little details get Devon Witherspoon free post-snap, and he lays a huge hit on Kirk Cousins on Atlanta's opening drive. Rush designs like that one have made Seattle the best blitzing team in the league by a mile. When the Seahawks blitz, offenses are averaging just 4.4 yards per play and negative 0.56 EPA per play, both of which are the lowest in the league. Early on this season, Seattle's blitzes were effective, but didn't add a lot of value to the defense as a whole because Macdonald would so rarely call them. Now we're seeing him call at least 8 a game, and there hasn't been any drop-off in their effectiveness. If Macdonald's defense has one defining quality, it's versatility. There was a drive last week against Atlanta where Nick Emmanwori had an awesome run stop coming from the backside of a wide zone run, then a few plays later he blocked a field goal. Seattle doesn't have any specialized superstars like a corner who takes away half the field or a pass rusher who demands double teams, but everybody on this defense is a hybrid. Everybody defends the run, everybody rushes the passer, including the defensive backs, and everybody covers, including the defensive linemen. It's a special group of players, and Mike Macdonald has done an awesome job of showing the league what these guys are capable of in an innovative system. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed, please hit subscribe to help us reach 60,000 before the end of the season. But that's all I've got for today. So until next time, take care.